Leeds Tax News. I'm Ellie Dawson.
And I'm Henry Whittaker. After the Christchurch incident, we discussed the rising protection for Leeds mosques.
There is speculation that Channel 4's new base is in a former nightclub.
And we took into some of the best fish and chips in the UK.
West Yorkshire Police are increasing patrols of mosques and other religious buildings in and around Leeds. This comes after last week's terror attack on Christchurch Mosque in New Zealand. Although there is no increased threat to the county, the UK threat level is still severe and police want people to remain vigilant.
Today we're welcoming terrorism expert Dr David Lowe to talk about the increase in protection in Leeds. Dr Lowe was a police officer on Merseyside for 27 years. Thank you for joining us today, David. First of all, since the horrific attack in New Zealand last week, is there more concern around the protection of religious buildings in Leeds?
I think you've got to take that position initially because, I mean, we saw after Christchurch around the country there was a male stabbed, a taxi driver was assaulted, and as well as the fact we saw even some more social media activity promoting what that gunman did. So it does make sense, and we're living in this period, and I'd say in the UK, certainly post the referendum, where there's been a rise of nationalist politics that I think has given the extreme far right and the far right. And I differentiate between two. The extreme far right are like the neo-Nazis that we've prescribed in this country, and the far right is like, say, for example, Tommy Robinson. They feel more comfortable. There's an environment's being created to feel more comfortable. It's not just in the UK. Globally, we've seen it. There was, if you remember, in Quebec a couple of years ago, Alexander Boissonnet killed 6 Muslims while worshipping in a mosque. When they look back at him, he was influenced by the likes of Marine Le Pen from Front National, Donald Trump. So politically, I think it's created that environment. So there are individuals who want to take it on themselves. So it's, to me, it's a sensible step.
And right now, how do you tackle that issue?
Well, first of all, if you're looking at how to prevent attacks happening, a lot of work, trust me, will be going on behind the scenes, not just in the UK, but certainly globally. I mean, we're still in the European Union there'll be a lot of work with Europol, which is the agency in the policing agency. It's more like an information gathering agency, not operational, but they help assist all of the police forces in Europe and those outside like Norway and Switzerland. Also, we have what we call the Five Eyes, which is the UK, US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. We share intelligence. So there'll be a lot of work going on behind the scenes. And what I've found in my studies, and I've been working a little bit on the right over the last 18 months, the increased internationalisation of it, just like we saw with the Islamist threat, like your Islamic States and the Al-Qaeda's. There's a lot more support internationally. I know it sounds a paradox because they're nationalists, but we have that. And you just look at Christchurch, an Australian who went to New Zealand and carried out the attack. So there's a lot of work going on that side. I think the other side then is also looking at extremism and radicalising. So there is that factor, and that's come to a head of social media and internet companies taking responsibility to take down posts, but they'll always find a way around it. So it's a multi-pronged approach to it, and I think that's how we're going to deal with it.
I think something we see quite often is after an attack there's an increased police presence around. And what would you say are the pros and the cons of this for the public?
Yeah, I think we've seen it a few times. Obviously, it makes sense with what's happening now. You're going to see it in certain areas. I mean, but you might remember when we went to level 4, attack was imminent, and in virtually all towns and cities around the UK, there were open armed police officers with automatic rifles. For some people, I think that could be terrifying, but it is about public reassurance too, and I think let's not escape from that. It's there for our safety. But I understand when some people, that's the stance I take. I feel a wee bit safer if I see it, but I understand other people's presence of, does this mean it's going to be an attack? And I think you've got to listen to the message that will come out and say, look, we're not expecting something to happen, it's just in case.
And what can the public do to help increase their own safety?
Well, you look at the type of attacks we've seen, just generally we've had knife attacks, we've had vehicles driven into crowds and so on. Now local authorities and so on are conscious of that. I mean, you look at Westminster Bridge, if you walk down that in January 2017, there was no There was no barrier between the road and the pavement all the way across. Now there is. So you can see developments that local authorities take. But what we can do is we can still relax and we can still go and enjoy ourselves. We'll still go to sporting events and concerts and restaurants and so on. We're still safe. Let's look at the chances of it happening are still remote. But we can still be vigilant. And if you see something that you're not happy with and it's your sixth sense, report this. There is a terrorism hotline that you can contact. The police will not be like a bull at a gate with it. They'll treat it sensitively. Or if you're at an event, tell the security. Just tell someone. If it's wrong, it's great. But if it was right and you didn't say something and it happened, how would you feel then? So, you know, as they say at the train stations, you may hear it, see it, say it, sorted. That is part of what we can do. We can all play our part and just be a wee bit more vigilant.
Dr. David Lowe, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
There are strong rumours that the Old Majestic nightclub could be the new headquarters for Channel 4. Ever since the broadcaster announced it would be coming to the city, there's been speculations that where it will be based. Owen Tyree has more.
Once a popular cinema, then a spot for ravers in the centre of Leeds, this landmark has had a rich history.
After closing in 2006, this once majestic building has been left unused and in constant development. And on top of that, a fire in 2014 has left the futures for this building very shaky. But things are looking up. Media giants Channel 4 are rumoured to be looking into this building as their new base in Leeds.
It's all rumours as far as I'm aware. First I heard of it was on Leeds Live actually, so yeah, rumours. But I mean, I'd welcome it, yeah. It's right next to the train station, on really good transport links, yes. yeah. And it's, because obviously you guys know stuff about TV, but I'm assuming that, you know, they're going to have to go all over West Yorkshire and beyond. So being right next to the train station, it'll hopefully reduce emissions from that side of things as well, yeah.
But what will Channel 4's move mean for the enterprise in Leeds?
The BBC is already here, so that's going to like interact quite well with each other because, you know, there'll be that competition between the two. But then also in terms of the TV companies, a lot of because it's not just the jobs that it brings here, it's also the companies that will spring up around that.
Whilst it's still speculation, it's good to have hope for this iconic building. Owen Tyree, Leeds Hacks News.
A multi-million-pound state-of-the-art plan to extend Leeds General Infirmary has been revealed. Leeds NHS Trust plans to add 2 new buildings in a bid to improve patient care. There will be a children's hospital, a building to care for more critically ill patients, and an expansion of trauma and cardiac care.
Leeds Civic Hall is one of 7 Yorkshire landmarks to be lit in rainbow colours this evening. This is marking the 6-month countdown to the UCI Road World Cycling Championships, which will be based in Harrogate this September.
Are you a budding young footballer? CBBC are looking for the next Harry Kane. If you are aged between 10 to 15 years old and have a passion for football, you could be in with a chance to be named Can You Kick It? Match of the Day Champion 2019.
Coming up, we talk about how young people can create a greener environment and this.
I'm here at the Weatherby Wheeler in Guardsley, which is one of the top 10 fish and chip restaurants in the whole of the UK. I love fish and chips and I've had plenty in my time. What is it that makes the perfect fish and chips? Let's find out.
A documentary on the problems of biomass fuels is being shown in Leeds today. Burn looks at how forests are cut down and focuses on Drax, the biomass power station in Yorkshire. Our reporter, Ollie Wood, has been finding out how to get more young people involved with the future of their planet.
Showing alternatives and the real practical steps allows young people to visualise the changes. With debates over the clean air zone and other such issues around the city, the work being done by Cyclops Pedal Power at Leeds Hackspace is hoping to bridge the gap.
The company is called Cyclops Pedal Power, and what we do is use creative technology to teach young people in their communities about climate change and inequality. So our current project is called Hack the Script, and it's about hacking the conversation around climate change, which is so often like focused on individual behaviour change and not about how big business and big governments are investing and changing the law to actually reduce emissions properly. So this is Cyclops City. How it works is young people or anyone that's using it will look at the screen, and the challenge is to lower the emissions in the city and limit the amount of global warming. So it's assuming that if everyone behaves like you, this is what global warming could be like. So this thermometer here is currently showing nearly 4 degrees by the end of the century, which is a lot of big problems, a lot of sea level rise, a lot of heat waves and extreme weather. And our emissions are currently about 4,000. On here, the things that are the most red, they're the highest emitters of greenhouse gases. So you would encourage people to like target those things first. And so they're glowing green, so they're saying, yeah, that's pretty good, and the thermometer's dropped to 3.3. The next thing that I might do is change where I'm getting my fuel from. So heating and transport are like the biggest emitters. They're really hard to decarbonise, so that's where we need to be focusing.
Changing where we get our electricity from goes from a red to a green with a more eco solution. The aim is to further reach and engage young people in environmental issues. I'm Ollie Wood, reporting for Leeds Hacks.
The Wetherby Whaler in Guiseley has been named as one of the top 10 fish and chip restaurants in the UK. Always on the lookout for a free lunch, Katie Garrett went to find out why it's such a catch.
The UK is home to nearly 11,000 fish and chip shops, the dish being named as one of the country's favourites. So what makes the Wetherby Whaler one of the best?
It's something about, I suppose, the crunch, the beautiful flaky fish. It's just that taste, isn't it? Fish and chips, it goes together like salt and pepper. It's part of our heritage. It's just a great meal. The secret, really, I suppose, is the team and your ethics as a business. We have dozens of people sourcing our potatoes. We have 3-4 of us that actually source the finest quality fish. We search far and wide. We're also, of late, we're now part of the MSC. We've been accredited with that, which means that we can actually trace our fish from sea to plate. So the chain of custody is intact from start to finish. And so all the time we need to know where it's come from, how it's being caught, who it's being caught by. And as I say, from sea to plate, we know where our product comes from. The standards of the gear that we use and buy, it's second to none, and this is what makes a very successful business.
Here it is, the final product. Fish and chips have been with us since World War II and really lasted the test of time. The Wetherby Whaler is cheaper today, giving us our lunch. Let's see how it is. I'm Katie Garrett, reporting for Leeds Hacks News.
Well, Katie, if you're still there, we're going to join you for some fish and chips. That's all for today. I'm Ellie Dawson.
And I'm Henry Whittaker.
Thank you.
Goodbye.